I'm a 23-year-old woman, and this started the Sunday morning my father didn't wake up. I had been living with him in the house I grew up in, just the two of us for the past 3 years. I paid half the bills, did all the groceries, helped him in and out of the bath, changed his medicine trays when his memory started slipping. It wasn't perfect, but it was ours. He never asked me to stay. I just did. It made sense. My older brother, Declan, had moved out when I was 13. We weren't close. He visited maybe once or twice a year, mostly around holidays or when Dad hinted at wanting to update the will. He always left with something: tools from the shed, an antique clock, boxes labeled Mom's keepsakes he claimed meant a lot, but never seemed to unpack. The funeral was quiet. We buried Dad on a Thursday. Declan stood next to me like a stranger. The reception afterward was just cold sandwiches, quiet murmurs, and long stares. He pulled me aside before he left and said we'd need to sort the house stuff quickly. I asked if we could wait a bit. He nodded but gave no real answer. 5 days later, I stopped at the store on the way home to pick up toilet paper and soup. When I got back, my key didn't work. There was a new lock on the door. Declan was sitting on the porch rail like he'd been waiting for me. No words, just a manila envelope in his hand. He handed it over and turned to unlock the door behind him. I didn't even have time to ask what was going on. Inside the envelope was a check for $2,000 and a printed letter. The letter said the house was now legally his and I needed to vacate immediately. I knocked. I yelled. Nothing. The curtains didn't move. He didn't come back out. I drove to a friend's apartment that night and crashed on her pull-out couch. I didn't cry. I didn't explain everything. I just told her I needed a few days. That turned into 2 weeks. I called a lawyer after the third day, someone who did family estates on the side, but the minute she asked about an updated will, I knew. There wasn't one. Dad had promised me he'd revise it after Mom died, but he never did. Everything defaulted to Declan by law. I tried calling Declan once, straight to voicemail. After that, I stopped. There was nothing more to say. I moved into a basement studio I found through a friend of a friend. The floor sloped and smelled like mildew. The stove clicked for 2 full minutes before it lit. The heater buzzed like it was running on old batteries. But it had a door that locked, and I could afford it with the job I had just started, overnights at a 24-hour diner off the freeway. It wasn't much. I mopped floors, cleared trays, cleaned grease traps, and stacked dishes until my hands cracked. Every dollar I made went toward rent, bus fare, and frozen meals. I didn't tell anyone in my family what happened. I didn't want to hear the tired, well, that's how the law works, or worse, pity. I didn't need sympathy. I needed footing. I found a used laptop for $80 at a pawn shop, brought it home, and used the free Wi-Fi from the coffee shop across the street. I spent every spare minute clicking through articles about design software, watching tutorials, and taking free certification courses on coding and digital marketing. I didn't even know what I was building toward yet. I just knew I wasn't staying in that basement forever. Once a week, I passed my old house on the bus. I'd look out the window for a second when we turned the corner, long enough to see if the lights were on or if the car was still in the driveway. He'd replaced the garden with concrete and paved the front walkway like it was some kind of fortress. All the windows were now tinted. There was no warmth left in that place, no sign of the home it used to be. Just a shell, cleaner and colder. I saved every receipt from those early months, every bill, every dollar I spent, every bus ticket and grocery stub, not for taxes, just to keep track. Just so I could look back one day and say that's where it started. I found work doing digital design on the side. Nothing big, flyers, menus, local event posters. I did it under a different name and never told anyone I knew. I didn't need recognition. I needed distance.